Lady Palutena? Lady Palutena! It's almost time to talk with GameXplain about the 10th anniversary of Kid Icarus Uprising. Are you ready?
Oh, Pit, did you forget I'm the goddess of light? I think I know a thing or two about being on time.
Hey everyone, Andre here along with Tom and two very special guests today, being Antony Del Rio and Ali Hillis, who are two voices you might recognize, being Pit and Palutena from Kid Icarus Uprising. It's a 10th anniversary coming up on the 22nd, and I thought it'd be so fun to talk to these two about their time with the game. So Ali, Antony, how are you both doing today?
Great, thanks. Excited.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks again for joining us to talk about Kid Icarus Uprising. And apparently the timing worked out really well, not just because of the 10th anniversary, but apparently you both were also planning your own event to talk to the fans about the anniversary, right?
Yeah, that's right. This is actually partly why it's so exciting for us. I haven't seen Ali or even talked to Ali really since the game's release.
Wow.
So that's about 10 years ago. And then I think a week or so ago, we kind of just reconnected, and we knew it was the 10th anniversary. We wanted to do something special. We've caught up. We've talked about a lot of the old times, and now we're doing a signing. We're doing a signing of our characters in Kid Icarus, a special 10th anniversary Kid Icarus Uprising reunion kind of signing. And we're doing that March 20th on Instagram Live at 11 Pacific Standard, and once again on the actual anniversary on March 22nd on Tuesday.
Yep.
And we're going to be able to talk to each other on Instagram Live, too, which will be really nice, because we recorded this game in the booth together, and it's been a really long time. I miss you, Antony.
Oh, that's cute. So that's actually one of my questions I was going to ask later. Did you guys actually record together? So we'll get to that soon enough, though. So I guess to start things off, we are 10 years out now from the game's release, which is wild to me. That time just flew by. But how's it feel for you both? Does it feel like 10 years have gone past? Or did it seem like it just flew by in a blink of an eye for both of you?
Flew by on the wings of Pit. Yes, I feel like it just absolutely flew by. Like seeing Antony again, I mean, hey, he hasn't changed a bit. and it's just nice to go back through our minds and all the memories of making the game. We were pretty excited about it, and we did it a little differently than other games, and it was really nice. The banter, the writing, the comedy in this game always kept us alive each session. And yes, it feels like no time has gone by.
Wow.
I agree. It definitely flew by. And honestly, this is a game that I hear about most often from fans. So it's kind of like a constant reminder of oh yeah, Pit and Palutena and this scene and that scene. So it feels like we just did it yesterday, just because I hear about it so much. It's kind of amazing that it's been 10 years.
So how's it feel to have made something, and obviously you both are very experienced, so I'm sure this isn't the only game or form of media it applies to, but obviously Kid Icarus Uprising had a big impact on a lot of people. I just played it again last year, and it still holds up amazing to this day. And so how's it feel to be so involved with a game that has reached as many people as it has, that are still finding and loving it to this day?
I mean, that's one thing that I really enjoyed about this game is, when we've been to Comic-Cons or when we've done our virtual cons on Instagram, it's amazing how many people, no matter what I am at the con for or doing the presentation for which game, for which characters, Palutena always comes up. Just like Antony said, it's been one of my most likable characters, I think, to play, and I think the game itself has sort of grown with its generation. So you've got people of all ages playing it, and some people just discovering it now. So I'm excited to celebrate the 10th anniversary and bring it to more people.
And how about you, Antony? How's that feel for you?
Yeah, I think now, 10 years later, I've had more experience and I've done other projects. But at the time, I was probably just excited as Pit in the game is. It was one of my first projects in voiceover, in the whole voiceover animated world, and it meant the world to me to be a part of kind of a Nintendo, and it was amazing. And I was just an excited kid, kind of going in almost every single day. I think it took us like a year and a half to kind of get this whole game together of recording. And
wow.
Yeah. By the way, I had no idea it was one of your first games. You were incredible.
You did
Thank you.
such a great
Job. It was so much fun to be in the booth every day with this guy. You did such a great job. I had a couple of big games under my belt at that point, but at the same time, I wasn't terribly seasoned as well. So luckily, we had Ginny McSwain at the helm. She directed this game, and she's won. I don't know how many Emmys are on her shelf. She's a big animation director and gaming director, so we got really lucky to work with her as well to guide us through this crazy world.
Right.
I have a quick one. You mentioned it was a different recording process compared to other games. What was different about it?
You want to take it, Antony?
Sure, yeah. When it comes to video games, we're usually recording solo. It's usually just us. They'll give us the lines, and it's just us in the booth by ourselves. And then later on in post-production, they'll kind of put together the conversation. With this game, for a good probably half of the game, Ali and I were in the booth together doing all the banter with each other in real time.
Which I think really added to the game itself, because it was more like doing an animated series than it was doing a game where, a lot of systems now in gaming, we can actually hear each other over the headset. If Antony were to record before me in the studio alone, then I would go in the studio, and nowadays a lot of the gaming systems, I'd be able to hear him and actually talk back to his recorded lines. But then not many people were really doing that, and so we were so surprised, or at least I was, to walk into the booth and there's this guy. I was like, what's he doing here? He's like, oh, well, they want you guys to record together. I was like, that is brilliant. That's amazing, because the chemistry and the banter, and especially between Pit and Palutena, because they have such quick, funny, witty banter. If you're not doing it in the room together, it really does change it. So I thought that was, I'm not sure if that was Nintendo's decision or Ginny's, but whoever's it was, we were very appreciative, because as actors, it's a pinch and an ouch and an action and a reaction, and when you can just throw that ball back and forth in person, even if you're behind the mic, it makes a huge difference. So I feel like that was felt, throughout the gaming community, that this game particularly had like such a quick, snappy banter.
Yeah, the rapport between you both, in particular during the game, is what makes the game stand out partially, I think, so much to this day. Like, it just feels really natural. And, like, I think having that energy of you both in the room together probably helped a lot in that, and it definitely clearly shows in the final product. Now, was it only you two that had that experience? Or because obviously there are a ton of conversations in the game. Were you ever recording with other actors throughout, or was it primarily focused on you two with the recordings?
Yeah, for me, I was just recording with Ali. I don't know if you had a different experience afterwards, but it was just Ali and I in the booth together.
Yep, just you, babe. Just you.
So how did you help, or how did you establish who your characters were? I mean, obviously, the script is written by Nintendo's internal staff, but did you have any insight, or were you able to bring elements or anything to the character? Like, did they have a pretty good outline of what they were looking for, or were they like, hey, we don't know what this character's voice should sound like, so just try your thing? So how did that process work exactly, if you remember?
Well, we all go through the audition process, right, Antony? I believe we both probably, if I can remember back then, I'm pretty sure we both probably got sides. When actors audition for video game roles or any role in voiceover or on camera, TV and film stuff, you get what's called sides. And for this role, I'm sure it wasn't much. Do you remember, Antony? It was probably just 5 lines or a paragraph, or... I
think the bulk, I think it was pretty much that. They kind of gave maybe a picture of what our characters would look like. Probably 5 lines, and just what the overall kind of game would be about, or how our character feels about what's going on in that scene that they gave us. But other than that, it was kind of just up to us to kind of create these characters.
Yeah, we just basically in the audition process, we just take a stab, read it once or twice, and then send it away. And luckily it was Antony and I that got the call that for whatever reason they responded to our voices and our acting choices and, the feel that we gave it. And poof, we were in the booth together. And when we started out, usually Ginny will guide you through the world, and I believe we were very lucky. Oftentimes when we're recording games, we don't actually have the producers in there with us. Sometimes they're, on the phone or they're going to send things to them and then come back with notes or whatever. But it was a really working atmosphere in the studio where on the other side of the glass from Antony and I were the director and producers at the same time. So if there needed to be rewrites, they were happening right there in the studio. If a joke didn't work or something didn't flow or didn't seem authentic to the character, they could just rewrite it right then and there and we would just go. So it was a really collaborative effort and a really wonderful working atmosphere with Nintendo and Ginny.
Yeah, that was another thing that I felt was very different with this game was I remember sending an initial audition, then I went into the booth and I did another read, and then they brought me back in for a third time to do what we call like a chemistry read, where it was just Ali and I there, and I've never done that for a game before. No. I've never kind of really gone in with another actress and they just wanted to see our chemistry with each other. And that showed me how important this game would be to Nintendo.
Right.
And I think Nintendo's just great to work with in general. I feel like maybe they had a little bit of this kind of special love for this particular game just because it was an IP that they're bringing back 25 years later.
Yeah.
So they really kind of wanted to make sure all the pieces were right. And yeah, that's how the audition process was.
That's right. I forgot about the chemistry read. They do that in television and film.
A lot of
on camera, they always do it. Almost always, when you're going to be paired up with someone, they want to make sure you kind of like each other. But in this case, doing it for a game, that was cool. I'm glad we liked each other.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. To Antony's point, the fact that they were bringing it back 25 years later. I don't know about you, Antony, but when I walked into I think even E3 that year that it was released or other gaming, conventions or work-related atmospheres, I'd see like entire walls of Kid Icarus. Just huge. I mean, they really got behind this game, which was cool because I don't know about you, Antony, but sometimes I don't know how big something is until I'm out in the world. After we've recorded it, after it's been all wrapped up pretty and put out on the shelves, and then I realize, oh, wow, that was a big deal.
I remember getting a picture from my agent at the time. I think they were in New York, and there was just like this huge poster outside of a Kid Icarus Uprising. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is gonna be cool. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. Sorry, did you have something, Tom, you were gonna say?
I had a couple of questions. How long before the game came out did you record the lines, if you remember?
That's a good question.
Did you have to wait long, or was it like fairly quick? Because I can imagine with some projects you record it, then it might be like years later that it comes out.
I don't remember.
I don't think it was more than a year.
Yeah, I don't think it was either. I think.
Yeah, they wrapped this one up, and I think it was probably something like that. But you're always waiting, and it's almost like right when it's kind of left your mind, all of a sudden, boom, there it is. Surprise, it's done.
And Antony, did you know when you were doing the practice lines about the existence of Dark Pit or Pit 2?
To tell you the truth, I don't know if I actually did. I don't know if during the audition process, I don't know if we ever went through the Dark Pit voice. I feel like I just did Pit, and then on the day when they told me, hey, listen, there's this whole mirror, and his kind of evil side comes in.
Here it is, the mirror of truth. Pit, you have to destroy that mirror!
Ah! Huh? What the? Hey.
Let's get right to introductions. This here is Dark Pit. He'll be your escort out of this life.
Speak for yourself.
Can we get a Dark Pit? And that's what turned into, okay, hey, it's Pitu! Can you please stop calling me that? It was one of those on the day we came up with a voice for it.
I remember that day. That was pretty amazing. I got to stand there and be quiet for a while and and listen to you guys experiment with the Dark Pit voice. That was cool. Again, so collaborative with Nintendo and Ginny.
So in a sense, there were 3 characters in that booth when you were recording together.
And it was pretty confusing.
It was getting kind of packed in there, yeah.
So when you are voicing multiple characters like that, because you have conversations, of course, like Pit and Pit 2 have conversations with each other, or Dark Pit. Are you switching back and forth on the fly, or are you recording one character, then all their takes and then swapping to the other, or how did that work?
I think for the most part, every now and then, if there was like a cut scene with the 3 of us together, and there was a line between Pit and Dark Pit, I would be able to do it all in one go. But there's a pre-boss battle rallying crop in the game where they're literally going back and forth with each other. So that I think I would record all of Dark Pit's lines first, then go back, listen to myself, and record all of Pit's lines.
Gotcha, right.
This guy's got talent.
I think you both have talent.
That's not easy to do,
Though, when you're acting with yourself, especially if you're going back and forth, I think I remember sometimes maybe Ginny in the booth saying to you, do you want to go back and forth, or you want to record? And you would, a lot of times I think you like to challenge yourself and say,
yeah, going back and forth.
Yeah,
and I remember just standing there, looking at you, looking at you.
So we've talked a little bit about the process so far, but I believe this was one of Nintendo's, Nintendo was a little reluctant in doing, it felt like in using voice actors for the longest time. Like even today, they use a lot of text in their games. And Kid Icarus Uprising, I think, was one of the first big games that they really went all out on the voice acting side of things. I was curious how that was perceived on your end. Did they seem like they were new to this at the time, or did it seem like they had a pretty good process down? And were you just aware of the fact that this was a kind of like a major event for Nintendo, and that they really hadn't done a whole lot on the voice acting side of things up until this point, with maybe a handful of exceptions?
Well, if they were new to it, you wouldn't have known.
I was going to say the same exact thing. I think it was one of those, they made us feel so comfortable in the booth together. It was never a thing for me thinking, oh man, this is the first game that has a whole bunch of dialogue and we're all kind of coming in. They let us have fun, with the lines. And I think they put a lot of trust in us, which felt great too.
It felt great. And again, just like we talked about before, having the producers actually there and the writers there isn't terribly normal. It doesn't always happen. Wow. So it was really nice to have that sort of team effort going, And sometimes we would hold in the booth for a minute, or hey guys, take a 5 for a second as they worked through a scene, or, found out. I don't know how they do it. Mm-hmm. I mean, Antony and I get the luxury of having lines written for us. The world is already built. They're guiding us through it. I don't know how they conceptualize and how they sit on the other side of that glass and sort of wind us through this world that's been created. Because at the time, on some Japanese games that I've recorded in the past, or I'm sure Antony has as well, I think mostly the games that we are revoicing and they're going to reanimate in an English version, or a game from that's been recorded in any other language, we get to see the artwork. We get to see, they'll say, hey, Ali, I'm gonna, like on Final Fantasy, hey, Ali, I'm gonna play you this lightning scene, and you can, see what's gonna happen. And I get to hear it in Japanese, so it kind of gives me the feel of what's going on, and it's already been done, This was different because we were really working our way through this thing, just exploring all the time. And I really give tons of credit to the producers and writers that were there in the studio with us. And it was just such a cool feeling.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
Were there ever times, do you remember, were there ever times where you had input into a line, like for instance, like this doesn't sound quite right for me coming from Palutena or Pit, or I think this may work better? Was there ever any improv that you were able to experiment with?
I don't remember there being tons of improv, which says a lot, at least for me, which says a lot for to the writers. You know, the writing was so great.
Right.
But we were, and Pit was definitely encouraged to kind of go off the rails and do his own thing with the lines that we were given. So the way it works for us is we have, you know, a whole script of lines, and they'll say, okay, read line 236 3 different times. So what we see is, I never learned how to read. And they go to me, okay, well, how would Pit say this? I never learned how to read. I never learned how to read. And then they'll just take it. They'll just take that one, and that's what I think they used it again. I went back in for Super Smash Bros. And they're like, we need to use this line. And I said that line again, just like that. So we were very encouraged to kind of just give life to the lines that we were given. But as far as improv, I think the writers just give it to the writers, because they, I think most of the stuff, if not all of it, was written down.
Mm-hmm. And then we had the freedom within the line to do whatever. And by the way, Antony just melted my heart. And annoying me a little. No.
Yeah.
It's like I can't tell the difference between you and your characters anymore. It's just like they're the same.
Yeah, watching him work was just, I mean, awesome. He brought, you know, Palutena had not as much room to go crazy as Pit did, and just watching him work every day was so much fun. I don't know how many times he'd finish a line and we'd just pause for a second and then just die laughing. You know, like wait till they turn the mic off and then I'm crying. It's so funny.
It'll be great to include some of those outtakes in the game.
I know. I wonder if there've got to be some somewhere in the world.
You gotta be somewhere, right? Yeah.
I know.
A Nintendo Volt somewhere.
Yeah, Volt.
Probably. So you mentioned, of course, the writers and at least I believe the localization director was there with the recording.
Mm-hmm.
Was Sakurai himself, the game's director, ever there, or did you ever have a chance to meet him?
Was he there,
never.
Antony?
I don't think so. No, I never met. No.
I don't think so.
Right.
I think he was on the phone a few times.
I think he had him on the phone a few times.
Because a lot of time in real time, I think they would give like a section of the game and make sure, hey, this is where the direction that we're going, and they'd have an interpreter there just to make sure that okay, he likes what we're doing with it,
right?
And he signs off, and then we go on to the next chapter.
Yep.
Great.
That makes sense. He's very busy, and with Smash Brothers later on, like he would plan out all the individual scenes, so
right,
makes sense for that to happen.
So I guess to back it up a little bit, how did you, you touched on it a little bit with the audition process, but how did you get involved with Kid Icarus Uprising originally? Did you know what the project was when you first started going for it, I guess? Or was it kind of like a surprise to you of what the exact roles were?
Well, in our world, I'm sure, you know, you guys might know this. A lot of the fans and gamers out there probably know that when we audition for a role in a game, most of the time we are given, you know, Orange Pumpkin as the title and Green Frog as the character name. We're not given a lot of information. So a lot of times it's an absolute surprise when we walk into the studio. Wait, what game is this? No way. Are you serious? Yes. So it's sometimes, a lot of times, a surprise for us too. So this one, of course, was very cool to learn what exactly it was we were working on.
Yeah, exactly what Ali said. We're just given code names of what the game is, and until the first day that we started working, we didn't know what it was.
Did you even know it was a Nintendo game? Or if you can remember?
Sometimes they'll tell us, yeah, who is making the game, but yeah. I think usually we do find that out.
Yeah.
But you know, there's so many games in the world.
Tons.
So even though they'll sometimes give us the artwork, it's harder to search a piece of art than it is to search a title. So a lot of times, even if we get the artwork, if we're not terribly familiar, or, you know, most of the time, the artwork has changed quite a bit in 25 years. Right. A little more detailed.
Yeah.
And kind of to that point, once you were brought onto the project, how much, during you remember like how much they were able to share with you about the game? Like, did they have concept art for you of the characters? Like, was there any part of the game you were actually able to see, so you kind of knew what you were dealing with, or were you kind of just going in mostly sight unseen?
No, I think once, I mean, we all have to sign NDAs so that we don't talk about the game. But once we were on the actual project, I think anything and everything that they could have given us to kind of steer us in the right direction, we were given. I think they trusted us with that. And again, like I was saying before, at that time, because this was one of my first games, I got brought onto the project. I had just finished doing Metal Gear Solid. And
so pretty much the same.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same project. Yeah.
Similar.
They just finished doing Metal Gear Solid, and I was doing my rounds, and there's a lot of voice actors, but once you're part of this kind of group, you see a lot of the same, like, directors or actors or anything. And I had just finished doing Metal Gear, and I think it was Chris Zimmerman who said, "Hey, you need to go in for this." Chris Zimmerman, of course, is a great voice director, and that's how I got involved with the game, and that's where I met Ginny McSwain, and I went in as excited as Pit was, and that's how the kind of character came to be. It was just me. I was just, I'm Pit, servant of Goddess Palutena, kind of thing, and a lot of energy.
And
that says a lot to Antony's talent as well. Because Chris is a very big director and she and Ginny are friends. So I bet there was a little behind the scenes chatter there of maybe someone's looking for the perfect Pit and going, Then another director says, "Hey, I was just working with this guy, kind of new, but really good. And sounds like he maybe has the right, energy and voice to play that role. So nice work, buddy."
Thank you.
Do you remember if you did you actually record them up at Nintendo of America's headquarters in Seattle, or was it down like at a local, more local to you recording studio?
Now that would have been nice. I'd have gone to Seattle.
Yeah,
it would be kind of fun. No, we were in Hollywood.
Got it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm curious as to what is your own take on the characters? Obviously they've lasted 10 years now in their modern forms. People love them. What do you think is it about those characters in particular that makes them special? Do I figured you two probably have the best understanding of them as being the characters. Do you know why they resonate with people so much?
I mean, I really think that outside of the characters themselves and just, it's also lighthearted fun. Yeah, Dark Pit's a bit of a pain in the ass, but it's some lighthearted fun. And I feel like some of the games these days, although I record them and I love them all, you pick and choose the feel of the game and how intense you like it to be. And I think this one just had some comedy to it, and it kind of kept it light. I feel like it's a fun game to go into and get lost in and not get too stressed about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the whole game has this kind of like childlike wonder to it.
Exactly.
And that's pretty much the tone of it, and I think that's why it resonates. It's a lighthearted game that you can have fun with.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, who doesn't love these guys?
I feel like they're very aware of what's going on. So there's definitely moments where they're breaking the fourth wall.
Yep.
And that's what makes it so fun and so different.
Yep. And the banter. I really think it'd be great if more games recorded actors in the room together. But it's complicated. It's hard to line up the schedules and the editing process. We had to be very careful, not to overlap each other. Oh. Even though we had this great banter going, we had to be careful and leave space when we're talking to each other, so that if we overlapped, it'd be cut, go again, because we couldn't overlap each other, so they needed to edit, as you understand.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned you recorded this, I believe, over a period of a year and a half or so, but I'm guessing that wasn't like an everyday thing. Maybe it was, but do you remember how often you may go in for a new session, or just just a rough idea so people better understand how this may work for a game? Are you called in every few weeks? And And is it always for like new content? Is it sometimes for I guess rewritten lines? Just how does that process work a little bit?
It's definitely not every day. Different games tend to come in waves. We might not hear from them for a week or two, and then they call and say, hey guys, we need to book you 4 sessions this week. So I think it kind of goes with the flow of how they're coming up with everything and the creativity, and also they probably finish one chapter and then, okay, now we need to go into this next chapter. So for me, at least, I think for us on this game, it came in waves. Definitely not every day, but I mean, average per month on this one, it would be kind of hard to come up with. But What do you think? We had 5 to 10 per month?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Is it a few hours each time then,
4
roughly,
hours.
or 4 hours?
4 hour sessions. Usually after 4 hours, we're a little brain fried.
Yeah, it'd be hard to keep up the energy after.
Yeah, exactly. Well, also, in voiceover, especially with the games, it's all pretty much cold reading. I rarely get the scripts ahead of time.
Oh, wow.
And it's joked about, but, a lot of my directors, if I actually get a script and I read it, they're very surprised. Like, wait, you read what I sent you? Like, a lot of actors probably don't. Because that's one thing that kind of comes with the territory as a voice actor. You have to be very good on the fly. You have to be a very, very good cold reader. And that's one thing that really wowed me about Antony in the booth is he could just rattle off these lines, and every single one of them came out different, and every single one of them came out funny or had a good clip to them, a comedic timing. He's just so good. So it was really cool to get to work together in the booth on that.
Ali, you made it so comfortable for me.
Oh, good.
This game between you and Ginny and the whole I guess Nintendo crew that were there, it just felt like home every single time.
Oh, good.
I was never really nervous, especially being like a newcomer. You guys made it feel so good. I appreciate
That's good.
Yeah, of course, and also the fact that you were a newcomer and having sort of the added pressure in the room of having all those people. I don't know if Antony and I are, still always getting to know each other, because again, we voiceover people don't get to see each other that much. We're always stuck in our little caves by ourselves. But did you come from a theater background, Antony?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
having all those people in the booth probably wasn't as nerve-wracking as some people, but
there's not usually that many people behind the glass. So for Antony, especially that he was a newcomer, that says a lot to his ability to just jump in and go.
Yeah, well, I guess kind of to that point, how did you both get into voice acting? I guess we'll start off with Antony, since we're on that topic. What got you interested in this as a career, and what was your kind of background that led up to that?
I always say that it's something that kind of fell in my lap. I was doing a lot more on camera, and I had just finished doing, I think, Hannah Montana or some Disney show, Jonas LA or something. And whenever I finished working on a show, my agents would just kind of send these voiceover auditions, and I'm like, I'll try this out. And one of them stuck. I was working on a Cartoon Network show called The Superhero Squad Show, and luckily that show was reported as an ensemble. So we had people in the room like Tom Kenny, who's the voice of SpongeBob. We had Charlie Adler, Steve Bloom, some really big heavy hitter, voice actors.
no pressure.
And, what was that?
No pressure.
Yeah. And it kind of fell in my lap, and I fell in love with it kind of on the job. It was one of those. I got really lucky that it wasn't something really that I was seeking, not a world that I really knew about until I worked on that show, and I was like, oh man, this is a lot of fun. And it just kind of snowballed from there, and I fell in love with it, and now it is what I do.
That's amazing! Wow, and you've been doing it ever since, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Great.
Yep.
And how about you? How about you, Ab?
I really have a similar story. I came to LA from New York City, went from the theater world into the TV world and film world, and I was just coming off of doing some cool, TV and film work like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and Must Love Dogs. There's always a dog in what I don't know. I'm always involved with dogs.
There's even a dog in Kid Icarus Uprising at one point.
Yeah, right? There's a dog in everything. It's kind of my theme, apparently. I rescue dogs, so I think it works out great. Yeah, and I'd been doing some pilot TV shows and things like that, and a friend of mine called up and said, "Hey, do you want to do voiceover?" And I said, "Sure. What is it?" He was like, if you hear a commercial, you hear the voice, or, a animated series, the voices. And I was like, oh, I mean, yeah, that'd be cool. So he said, my voiceover agent just lost someone who kind of sounds like you. So why don't you come in? His name is Adam Selkowitz. Thanks, Adam. So anyway, I went in, I met the people. I was so broke. Yes, I had done films, and yes, I had done some TV shows, but I was still very much a struggling actor at the time. And I went in and they said, well, bring me your reel. And I said, well, how much is a voiceover reel going to cost? And they said, I don't know, $1,600. And I was like, I can't do that. So they said, well, I said, can't I just go in your booth and read? And I'm good or I'm not, right? And they kind of looked at each other and they were like, well, I guess so. It's not really how people do it. I mean, usually you'd prepare. And I was like, okay. So I picked up some like deodorant commercial, sides with all the lines on it and something else, and I read, and then the really nice booth director at that agency put it with music, and and they called me the next day and they said, sure, we'd like to see it. And one of my very first gaming roles I booked was I think I booked StarCraft, Blizzard's StarCraft 2, and then it was Final Fantasy 13, Lightning, and then Mass Effect, the art to Sony. So kind of like the kid over here, I really honestly fell into it, but also fell into it probably much like Antony at the right time, after I had studied and had a whole lot of experience under my belt, but still was considered new to LA and new to the Hollywood scene and not knowing really what voiceover was. And now, much like Antony, is a very large part of my career. And I am so grateful for it, because especially nowadays that we can build a sound studio at home, or hell, record right out of our closets next to our sweaters. We're very, very lucky to get to do what we do. And I'm so grateful that I fell into it, much like him, at the right time when I was ready, prepared, and excited.
Yeah, you kind of touched on the fact that you can now have home studios, of course, which I imagine was accelerated by the pandemic. So I was curious how exactly has that affected things over the past couple of years, and is it a permanent change, you think, or now that things seem to be opening back up a little bit, is there more studio work again, and how have you found that just to be a voice actor working from home primarily?
For me, I think it's definitely going to be probably half and half now that the studios are opening up again. I find myself sometimes going into the studio, or we're doing at-home sessions. I think it's great that we can work from home and get things done. I'm on a show now called He-Man and the Masters of the Universe on Netflix.
No way! That's awesome!
From the house. Which I never knew was possible. So my bed is just over there, and I'm recording this big Netflix show. So I think it's great. I definitely miss the days where I can be in a booth with Ali or the rest of the actors, because it gives a different kind of energy. But at least, we have these closets or booths to continue to work, even from home. And I think we've all had to learn how to be our own engineers in a way as well. It was a huge learning curve for us to learn how to record ourselves and use a mic and get the whole setup going right.
I now use the word gear. Gear. I don't know how to work all my gear, but I got gear.
Yeah.
So earlier, Antony, you had mentioned that for Kid Icarus Uprising breaks the fourth wall pretty often, and that that kind of helped. That may have helped you as well, like with the performance. The fact that this isn't like a completely serious role. So I was curious, as part of the whole fourth wall breaking thing, do either of you or do both of you play games much? Obviously, you're both in a lot of games. I look at your IMDb's, and it's an impressive list. I can't even read that much. But yeah, do you play games much yourself? And if so, have you revisited Kid Icarus Uprising at all to play yourselves?
I am really good really good at watching you guys play on YouTube. I am so good at that. I can press those buttons.
I am the worst. I am bad at games.
The only game that I've actually played all the way through was this game, was Kid Icarus Uprising.
Oh wow, that's not an easy game either. It's
no. It's the only game that I've actually played all the way through. This is my copy that Nintendo sent me.
Oh wow.
Aww.
And I used to have this thing where I would get copies of the games that I'm in. Like they'll usually send you kind of like, hey, thank you for being part of this game. And I never opened any of my copies, so this is still sealed.
Right.
Never opened Kid Icarus Uprising. It's literally the only game that I've ever played all the way through. I've done right now. With my cousins, I've done Cupheads. I've played a few times.
That's a tough one, yeah.
But I'm with Ali. Yeah, I love watching my brother play. I've seen him play Kingdom Hearts or Metal Gear or anything like that. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I wonder, as part of that, and Ali, you can answer this too, for really whatever you're in, anything you're in, rather. But is it weird at all to like play a game or watch a video or TV show, like seeing on Netflix or whatever, like, hey, that's my voice there, even if it's like, have you ever been caught by surprise by hearing yourself in something? And what's that experience like? Is it just like, oh, that's me, whatever, or is it just kind of a weird feeling at all?
That's a good question. I always get excited when sometimes I'll be walking through the living room and the TV's on, and it just so happens that some afternoon movie's playing, and you're like, oh my God, that was that. Look at that, and just kind of stop and look at it for a second, and think back to those times and those memories. I think it's probably not unlike anyone who watches video of themselves, from 10 years ago or something like that, because it's an experience that we had, and it's a time in our life, and it sort of defines a chapter depending on the project. So yeah, it's really cool. I have a kid now, and so it's fun when she discovers it. I was watching Palutena's Revolt with the carrots, and I just had it on, reminding myself of the world and of how we recorded it, and my little one came up. She's like, "Is that you, Mama?" And I was like, "That's me. That's me with the green hair."
Yeah, I have a funny story. I was in Miami. My whole family's in Miami, and it was Christmas time. I think the game had just come out, and I went to get some presents. I want to say I'm in the Levi's store. Shout out to Levi's. And I'm about to go try some jeans on, and there's kids in front of me. And they're talking about, okay, if you had a superpower, what would you have? Oh, I'd be invisible. Oh, what would you have? I fly. You can't fly. Well, I can, because I'm Pit, and they're playing Kid Icarus Uprising. Right?
Wow.
And my mom goes, oh, you should tell them. You should tell them that
you should tell them.
And I go, I never told them, because I told my mom, there is no way that these kids are going to believe that some kid in Miami, at a mall in Miami, is the voice of this little angel that they're playing it right in front of me. And it was one of those moments, they would have never believed it. It was one of those moments where I was like, oh, this is almost a little weird to hear my voice, him not realize I'm right behind him. And it was this kind of weird, exciting moment. It was cool to experience.
It's like a secret. And it's a cool secret.
I had a similar thing happen at a GameSpot when Final Fantasy 13-2 or something, one of the later games of Final Fantasy 13 was coming out, and I had to go into that GameSpot to meet with someone for something, I don't remember what, and somebody was playing it, and it was like, the posters were everywhere, all the release stuff going on, and I went up to the lady and I talked to her in Lightning's voice. And that head turn was so fast.
Looking at me like,
wait. And then the lady behind the counter was like, she is. And they were like, no way! But you got to be careful doing that in a GameSpot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that could be dangerous.
But it is. It's like you said, Antony. It's like a cool secret that we know, and it's neat when you're unrecognizable facially when you go into Comic-Con or whatever, and you can just kind of walk the floor, and not many people really know who you are, and you can hear them talking about something you did and getting excited. That's what makes it all worthwhile, really.
Yeah,
That's
one
fun.
of our one of their fan questions was how often you get mentioned by your character names in real life. So I take it not too often based off that.
Only if they already know, pretty much, right? Or if we're at a convention, a gaming convention, and we're there for that reason, or signing autographs, and they know we're there, then, if you're walking away from your signing table or at dinner that night, you get a nice yell from across, Palutena! Woo!
So, and speaking of which, actually, you had mentioned earlier that you had, of course, also worked on the Kid Icarus shorts that came out, I think, around the same time as the game, maybe after. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Was that just recorded at the same time as the game, if you remember? Or was that a whole separate thing? Was that
I think
done by
we
a different
did, right?
team?
It was intermittently recorded in the game. I think during the game.
Yeah. I think we had separate sessions for these shorts in particular, but it was all around the same exact time.
Gotcha.
Those were fun. I really liked recording those. It was more like doing like an animation.
Yeah.
Those were neat.
And it was 3 different studios, and all of them had different styles.
That's
all the
true.
shorts had different styles, and we were like, yeah, okay, let's go in. And then we recorded it, around the same time.
Nice. So was it a pretty similar process then to the game itself, I take it, in that case? Or was there anything different? Were they looking for any differences in the performances at all, or was it pretty much the same thing?
It's pretty much the same.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, which, wouldn't normally happen in a gaming situation, in a game situation, but yeah, it was really cool. Again, that's why this game, I feel like, is different than others, because it has such a great banter between the characters. It just seems, it has such a flow, such a nice, quick, real flow, instead of line, which is okay too, but this was just neat. It was cool that they chose to record that way. And then I got to know Antony.
Otherwise,
That's
we
right.
really know each other.
And one of the things, Anthony, that you had to do as well for this role is you had to sing, at least at one point, I forget, I feel like there may have been a few more segments at all.
Again today I will go soaring through the sky. My enemies, I'll dish them up and up to fry. Gracious goddess of light, watches from up above. At dinner time I always show the cooks some love.
Are you naturally a singer? Do you sing at all? Or is that something you had to practice at for the game?
No, I actually do sing. So when I heard that we had to do some singing in the game, I thought it was awesome. And like Ali was saying, it's not like I got the song before or the lyrics before. I came in one day and they said, okay, hey, listen, we're going to be doing a song today. I said, oh, okay.
Let's bring it on.
And I remember I had to come in and do that song a few times. Different melodies, different lyrics. So now that we hear, the version that everyone hears and that's in the game is again today I will go soaring through the sky. But before,
Come on, more.
before it was something totally different. And I don't remember what those 2 other versions were. But we recorded that song a few different times, I remember.
By the way,
wow.
how do you still hit those notes, my friend? It's 10 years later.
I was lucky because I did Pit when I was, I think, around 18. I originally did Pit when I was 18, so the voice had already changed. So going that high is easy for me. It's going low.
Yeah, and you had to go a bit lower. I think you went a bit lower for a Dark Pit, right? Is that
For dark, for sure.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little light and dark?
Sure.
He's gonna kill me later, by the way.
Ali, the one
Come
that
on,
usually
Pit.
Lady Palutena, it's been 2. Can you please stop calling me that? Why are you such a copy of me? If I were a copy of you, would I be kicking my own butt?
Oh my God! It's like playing the game. This is wild. That's so cool.
Oh, Pit, just talking to himself again.
I love it. That's amazing. Oh, that's fun. Yeah. So, do any specific lines? I mean, obviously those stuck. I mean, do any specific lines stand out to you about the script that you remember? Like that you had fun reading in particular? You had mentioned the music, of course, already, or the song. Is there anything else that any particular moments that you really look back fondly on?
Yeah, I remember. There's a chapter called "The Ring of Chaos," which is, I think, what you were talking about before, where Pit becomes a ring. And a little girl finds the ring, so he's able to walk as the little girl. Then she drops the ring, and a dog picks up the ring. And I remember the dog finds Magnus, who's voiced by Fred Tatasciore, by the way, who's amazing. And the dog's trying to get his attention. And I remember that there was a whole page of dialogue. Again, we're usually given a line to do, we do it 3 times, but because this was a page of dialogue, they were just like, okay, just do this whole page while you're watching the animation and time it correctly.
Easy.
I remember,
So easy.
I remember doing that page. I think we just did it in one take. Because I watch it once, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that there, I'm going to do that there. Okay, cool. So now it's time to record it. And we start, and I get to Magnus, and I'm like, please, put the ring on. Come on. And we get to the end of this monologue where I say something like, come on, take the ring. You can pawn it afterwards. I'm sure it's worth a lot of... And the line is worth a lot of money. But I lost my spot while I was watching the animation and going back and forth to the script. So in the game, you hear me go, please take the ring. I'm sure it's worth a lot of money. So I finish that, we do that take, and I'm like, oh man, we're gonna have to do that whole thing again or punch in. So I'm waiting, and they get on talkback and they say, great, we got it. And I go, wait a minute, actually, can we listen to that last line again? I'm pretty sure I flubbed it. So they were like, yeah, okay. They listen to it, we hear the little pause, and it's worth a lot of money. And they're like, no, we love it. And they kept it in the game. It was a mess up on my part, and they kept it in the game. And that was the moment where I realized, oh, this is what this is. You know, Pit is kind of stumbling and falling through everything that's going on. And that's why it works. That's why that little mess up works, because Pit would mess up. He doesn't do anything.
Right.
Or do anything perfectly right. It's his imperfections that make this whole game kind of like, or at least his part of the game, kind of just lovely to see. And yeah, I think it was that moment where I really realized, oh, okay, yeah, I stumble, Pit stumbles, it's all good, because that's what this world is.
And it makes it more real and more accessible.
Yeah,
you know?
Definitely relatable.
Relatable, yes.
Especially in that situation too, where like all kinds of crazy stuff is happening to him. It makes sense that he'd be a little, nervous in that point of the game. So
Yeah. And as an actor, it's really cool to get that kind of freedom. To realize that, oh wait, I can put more of my own personality in this, and you sort of, get wings that way, no pun intended.
we're gonna get our Red Bulls out here. So how about you, Ali? Does anything stand out to you about or any particular lines or moments when recording for the game?
I really didn't understand when we were recording the movie with all the vegetables. That I know I was extremely confused about. Jenny had to do some serious directing. If you guys go back and watch Palutena's the Revolt movie, I think it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
But just that whole thing was extremely confusing to record. But then once I saw the final product, I was like, oh, this is what they meant with the carrots.
I get it now.
And the vegetables. I'm not sure I understand what's going on or what this has to do with the game, but okay. That stuff was really fun to record, and confusing, but fun.
Well, speaking of coming back to record, actually, I guess a couple of questions about this. I'll start off with you, Antony. You also came back for, of course, Smash Bros. Ultimate, where you voiced Pit in the game, and I guess Dark Pit. Was that process at all any different to recording for Kid Icarus? Were you surprised to be called back at all? And just, how was that? Obviously, there's much fewer lines in Smash Brothers, probably a lot more recordings of you being hit, I imagine, or taking damage or whatever. What was that like? Yeah.
I think so Ultimate was actually my second Smash Bros. Game that I was in. But
that's right. Okay, sorry, continue.
Yeah. Because I was in the 3DS, or not the 3DS, the Wii U version of Smash Bros. And then I came back for Ultimate.
Right.
It was amazing. I think being a part of Smash Bros, the game that it is, and it's loved all around and still played today, and every single time a new one comes out, it's makes a pretty big splash. It was a dream come true, And it was very different, right? To have your own kind of game where I'm in there for, again, like a year and a half. Smash Bros, I finished, I think, all of my parts in 2-3 days kind of thing. Still a lot of fun. Kind of at this point, very easy to snap back into Dark Pit and Pit and just kind of do his thing. But I think just being a part of the Nintendo umbrella with Smash Bros. And with Kid Icarus, again, it's a dream come true. Like, it's one of those, I will never forget this. It's great.
You've clearly proven today you can easily snap back between the two roles of Pit and Dark Pit. But one of our fans, Riley Dilworth, asks, what was it like to talk about other famous game characters in Palutena's guidance for Smash Brothers? Did you have any other characters you recognized? You're like, oh wow, or anything like that?
I think it was hilarious. It was hilarious. So we did that whole the Palutena's guidance, and I remember this is funny. This is a good story actually. So there's a lot of characters in these games. A lot of them I know, obviously Mario, Luigi, some of the Pokemon, and all of them. And I remember some other names not as recognizable to me or easier to say. And I remember reading a line, and I said something like, I saw a name in there. There was an awkward name, but I'm like, okay, we have weird names in Nintendo, and I'll do it. So like, okay, read this line. And I said, okay, wow. Look at that toe fat. And everyone behind the glass is cracking up. And I'm not understanding why they're cracking up. I'm like, did I do something wrong? And they get on the intercom and they go, it's top hat. So I read it. They didn't like put a space between top and hat. I read, oh, look, it's toe fat. But the line is, oh, look at that top hat.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, it was just a great time just doing that in general and kind of explaining who Mario is and Link and all these different people. Yeah, that was actually a great time.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds like a great time. It's these outtakes I want to hear now, after...
You're going to have to play through again.
They must have it somewhere. All these kind of bloopers have to have it somewhere.
I know, they should just release the bloopers of some of these games. It would be hysterical.
It would be really funny, I think.
Yep.
Well, here's a question, I guess, related to the possibility of future bloopers. So, of course, Kid Icarus Uprising, when it came out, I can't remember now. It was decades after the original, which was made on the first Nintendo hardware. And Sakurai, the director of the game, has since said that perhaps we look at bringing it back, having a sequel 25 years from that point, which is 10 years ago now, of course, so 15 years from now. So my question is, would you be up for coming back for a sequel to Kid Icarus Uprising in a potential 15 years?
100%. That'll be interesting. Oh,
same here. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, whenever, listen, Ali and I are ready. So whenever they're ready to make another
We're ready.
Kid Icarus Uprising sequel or even an anime short, we're there.
We're there. Yep. Yeah. It was such a fun project to get to work on, and I'd like to keep these characters alive forever.
I hope Nintendo's watching this, because we need that sequel.
I would love that. I have to give a shout out also to, I think, the fans of this game. And I know, actors and voice actors say it a lot, that if it weren't for the fans, these games wouldn't, and it's true, these games wouldn't be where they're at. But I think this game in particular, it could have been lost in the shuffle. Speaking for myself, I am very good at taking a break from social media, then coming back, and taking a break from social media and coming back. And the fans are always there. Like, if I were talking about Kid Icarus Uprising, it didn't matter because the fans kept this whole kind of IP alive. And it's I'm super grateful for that. I'm grateful that when I did come back, they were there and they were saying, like, hey, you're back. Yeah, so I have to give a huge shout out to them, because I think if it weren't for the fans, this game could have been, lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, and it seems as popular now as it ever was. I show up at conventions or, trying to get back to some live conventions with, by the way, Antony, can we do some together maybe?
I would love that.
Wouldn't that be cool if we could do a convention together or two?
I've seen. They've been sending me pictures through like Twitter, some cosplays of Palutena,
incredible!
Dark Pit. They are
cosplays.
amazing. And then we have some amazing artist fans.
Yes.
Fans who are artists, and they'll just send me pictures that they've drawn, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And we'll get comments of like, oh, this game kind of inspired me to start drawing, and if it weren't for this game, I wouldn't be an artist, or I wouldn't be drawing Pit or Palutena or anything like that. And I wish that they would know that reading those comments, and I'm sure I can speak for Ali as well, inspires us to want to do more. So just as much as they're inspired as well.
It makes it all worth it, you know?
Yeah.
It's our job, but...
I mean, we're very lucky in the way that we have a job where we're appreciated, you know, where people are really excited about what we do. And I know when I was waiting tables at a barbecue joint in New York City, everyone was excited to get their barbecue, but it wasn't quite the same. It wasn't quite the same. So it's really neat that there's so much passion for this game still and these characters. And yeah, it'd be really cool to do another one. That'd be fantastic to bring it out again and sort of reignite the passion and bring back all the cosplays again. We're seeing them still. It's amazing. People are still excited.
I guess you should note to fans that if they haven't played the game yet, like, you can still buy the physical one used, but the 3DS and Wii U eShop's going to be closing down in about a year, so people won't be able to buy it and play the game anymore.
So better move fast.
Yeah.
Go grab it.
Yeah.
Hope
Gonna
for a
have
remaster,
to.
but
I was gonna say you're gonna have to remaster.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. For the Switch.
That'd be
those
nice. Exactly.
That'd be nice.
I hope
Yep.
so.
And then maybe I could play it because Switch is happening in my house.
Hey, there we go. Perfect. See, Nintendo. This needs to happen. Nintendo, make a remaster and then a sequel. We're not asking for much. Just a couple of games from you. And
Yep.
I guess since we're just talking about the fan base and all that, I guess just to ask on behalf, I'm sure, of some people who are curious about getting into voice acting themselves, since you both have such so many experiences with it, is there any advice you would give to people who are looking to become a voice actor, whether in a game or TV show or movie space, whatever? I guess what advice would you give them for how to get started and how to start hopefully getting on the career path for it?
That's a really good question. I always tell people that ask me in person, at least from my point of view, and everyone has a different experience in this world of voice acting, but from my point of view, I come at it from an actor's point of view, not so much how you sound, but who you are as the character and what you bring of yourself to that character. For me, TV, film, theater, doesn't matter. Voice acting, it's all the same technique, it's all the same passion, it's all the same performance. No matter if I'm behind a microphone, in front of a green screen, on a mocap stage wearing dots all over me, or in full makeup and wardrobe on a film set, it's the same kind of acting. It comes from the heart, and it's about. I come from a background of Meisner acting training and formal theater. So I tend to think that that's really helpful in a voiceover world, because the cool thing about voiceover is, if I were to do a scene in TV and film, it might be this small and I'd be talking to you, and I've actually had advice that I should talk quieter if I'm on TV and in film, and you want to make everything really small. Whereas if you're behind the microphone, you're just, you got to put all the energy in it and throw it at the mic, and it's a different technique altogether. It's more like theater behind the mic. So if you want to get into voiceover, I personally highly recommend that you take theater classes, get into performing on stage, get into using your body, because so much voiceover now, at least in the gaming world, involves motion capture. That's a big part of it, where you've got this big headgear on and this microphone right here and this camera right here, and it's this whole robot thing. So that's kind of my advice is follow an acting path first and see where it takes you. And then if you're sort of at the point where you really want to voice act, you know, you got to make a reel. Now you can do it yourself, right, Antony? Like, you can edit, you can record, you can do it all on your laptop these days. Back in my day, you had to pay the $1,600. But nowadays you can do it yourself and just start sending it out. Send it to everyone. Post it on social media. Send it to agents. You've got so much more access these days than we did, or at least I did when I started. It really had to enter the door on a disc, you know, of an agent, or it wasn't going to happen. And now there's all these websites out there that you can put yourself on, and people can click through and give you voiceover gigs, non-union, but once you do enough of those, then you can enter into the union world, and you know, your whole career expands. But never pay to play, though. Don't pay too much. If someone gives you an opportunity, don't. If it costs too much, don't do it. But I don't know if that was a really meandering way to say it, but that's kind of what I encourage people to do. Acting first, and then just put yourself all over the place.
I agree 100%, especially the way that Ali and I kind of got into this world was we were starting in theater and in television and film, and it's all about the acting. I think that's the biggest misconception of this kind of world. There's a lot of people will come up to me and say, "Oh, I can do a voice," and it's like, well, that's cool that you can do a voice, but take some acting classes.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, sure, you can do a voice, but we need to feel just like on television, and sometimes even harder, because all you have is your voice to kind of relay what the character is feeling. So yeah, I would say acting all the way. I know the way I come at most, if not all of my characters, I like to say that I'm very good at kind of listening and paying attention to my surroundings. So most, if not all of my characters are based off of people that I've either met or a character that I've seen on TV. Rugrats right now, I play some guy that's based off of my old roommate. So everything's kind of that impression of people that I've observed.
By the way, you just told a whole bunch of people.
Does your roommate know?
Does your roommate know?
My roommate does know, because I was recording at the apartment while I was living with him for Rugrats. Wow. And I said, "This is you." And he was just very big. He was always just kind of, "Coffee, yes!" And I'm like, perfect. This is what this guy is doing.
Are you going to owe him royalties or something?
He gets a percent.
Go to conventions.
Yeah. So I would say there's inspiration everywhere you go. So I just pay attention to the people around you. And if you can do a bad impression of them, that's a new character.
That's awesome.
So true.
That's some great advice. So thank you both for that. And I guess now that we're probably wrapping up here, do you just have any final thoughts all about the game, or really anything else you'd like to share with our audience before we close it down here?
I just again, I think just echoing what Antony said earlier, which is we really appreciate everyone out there, and anyone that comes to us excited about the game or having a story to tell. The game distracted them from a tough time in their life, or the comedy in the game, you know, helped give them a different feel that day, or the days that they're playing it. We take to heart, it makes it hard to talk, but we really take to heart how much this game has made an impression on people over time. And 10 years later, the fact that it's still out there and people are still excited about it and still cosplaying it and still asking us, you know, to sign photos, it's fantastic, and it blows my mind, and I'm very appreciative. And thank you for having us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Any final thoughts, Antony? Yeah.
Well, to echo what Ali's saying, extremely appreciative. The fact that we got here, that we're 10 years later and we're still talking about this game and these characters, blows my mind. To be a part of something, you never know which kind of project you're a part of is going to mean something to people. And the fact that 10 years later, this game is still on people's minds and we're still talking about it is, I'll never get used to it. I'll always be appreciative of. It changed my life, right? It's the first project that I was just like, oh, I'm on Nintendo, and I'll be talking about it with my kids, for the rest of my life. So, yeah, no, thank you so much.
Well, that's amazing to hear. And speaking of being able to talk with you both have an event coming up super soon at the time of this video.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. And thank you so much for bringing that up.
Anthony and I are going to be doing a signing March 20th. I'm not sure when this is going to start airing, but March 20th, we're going to start celebrating the 10th anniversary a little early and do a signing on Instagram Live. And you can get photos for us to sign, either just one of us or the other, or we have these cool sort of duo photos out there that if you guys would like those signed with the little 10th anniversary, you guys can pick those up on Streamly.com, and we're going to sign on the 20th, March 20th, on Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then on the actual 10-year anniversary, March 22nd, Tuesday, we're going to sign again at 11 a.m. Pacific. So even if you guys don't get a picture, just come and hang out, and let's talk Kid Icarus Uprising.
That sounds super fun. And so that is probably either today and in 2 days from now at the time of this video. So we have links to that in the description below. Keep an eye on it, but that sounds like a ton of fun, and those pictures look amazing. So that'll be great to have those signed. And I guess real quick then, on top of that, is there anywhere else people can follow you personally if they want to find out more about your work? I guess we'll start off with you, Anthony.
Yeah, sure. On Twitter, I'm twitter.com/the Antony Del Rio, and on Instagram, I'm instagram.com/Antony Del Rio. And that's basically where I post most of the new projects coming up, or really anything that's going on.
Great. And how about you, Ali?
Yep, same here, except I'm Miss Ali Hillis on both Twitter and Instagram. And I try to post as much as I can. And I definitely post any cons coming up, whether virtual or live and in person, and any signings. And also that's where you can communicate with me as well. And especially on Twitter, you guys can reply to things and let me know what you're thinking about, and let me know if there's anything that I can do as far as Streamly goes, putting up different characters. You know, I had printed up other pictures on Streamly, and it was because of Twitter and messages on Twitter from people, responses, that I said, oh my God, I completely am spacing and not putting Palutena out there. So now she is. There she is for you. So you guys can, we really like communicating, especially over Twitter.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, you can find links to both their Instagrams and Twitters in the description below. Go follow both of them. They are amazing people. So thank you both for appearing with us for the 10th anniversary of Kid Icarus Uprising. It's been a ton of fun being able to talk with you both. I'm a big fan of playing the game and hearing your performances in it, which is what helped make that game so great. So it's been a true pleasure being able to talk with you both. I'm sure that's the same for Tom as well.
Yeah, so memorable. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Thanks for inviting us along for the ride.
Thank you for having us, guys. Really appreciate it.
And with that, thanks for watching, everyone. Of course, stay tuned to GameXplain for more on Kid Icarus Uprising. Hopefully, at some point in the future, Nintendo, please make that sequel a remaster. We want it. And of course, everything else Nintendo as well. We'll catch you later. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Antony Del Rio here, and I'm here with GameXplain and with Ali Hillis. I voice Pit and Dark Pit in this game right here, Kid Icarus Uprising. And we're here and we want to tell you that we are getting together March 20th at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to do a very special 10th anniversary reunion signing. March 20th at 11 a.m. on Instagram Live. And we're coming back again March 22nd on Tuesday, which is the actual anniversary at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And you can get prints like this signed by Ali Hillis and myself. And you can find those on Streamly.com, either Streamly.com/Ali Hillis or /Antony Del Rio. And even if you don't get a print, come and hang out with us, Instagram Live, and we'll talk everything Kid Icarus.
See you there.